So going back to another video of the Sports Bruisers Bills edition. It has been a lot has been going on the last week or so. And fortunately, I was not able to get my thoughts on the Sean McDermott fire, the press conference, my reaction to that too. Fortunately, with the weather, wasn't able to really get back and make the videos in time. Now we are making it on the day after, the morning after the news broke out about the new head coach, Joe Brady. After all the searchers, Joe Brady was promoted within to be the next head coach. My thoughts on that. And before I get into it real quick, I guess my quick thoughts on when I said Sean McDermott at the press conference. I did agree that Sean McDermott should have got fired. I think something had to change, but I think Brandon Beane should have gone also. I think it was a package deal. If you're getting rid of one, you might as well get rid of both because I think they're both the issue with Brandon Beane, how he built the roster, how the players he picked, and so forth. You can go on the list: the draft, free agents, the contract extensions. You name it. It falls on Brandon Beane's. And at the very least, if I came out and said after the recap of the Broncos loss, something had to change, I said I would get rid of Brandon Beane first. And unfortunately, they got rid of McDermott. They kept Brandon Beane. He got promoted to president as well. And then we had the press conference about the Pagul and Brandon Beane. And of course, if Miss Keon Coleman comment about it wasn't really on Brandon Beane. It was the coaching staff that wanted him. He was just being a team player, as well as hitting this proverbial playoff wall. Those are two things that really stood out from there. And Pagul did say some good things here and there before the move came out, which made the whole press conference even worse on that. Where I did like the part where he says, what is success? Is success going to the playoffs 7 straight years and not make it to a Super Bowl? Yes, he is right on that. Again, there was some things outside, I think, the Keon and the playoff wall at the beginning, his introduction with Sean McDermott and why he got rid of him. I think there was good points to that until we got to this point. So with that out of the way, again, I agree with McDermott being fired, but I think Brandon Beane should have been fired as well. And I wasn't a big fan of the press conference, as probably most of us weren't. Now we get to the big news here. The Bills, after many interviews, like 8 or 9 interviews in total, if they had, none of them were repeats. All of them were just one interviews. Never had someone come in for a second interview like other teams, which could be a red flag as well. They decided to promote within and elevate offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach. And for all of our reactions, and I just posted an article here. If you guys want to check out my page on Sports Bruisers, just finish it up now. It's a quick little article I put together there. And you see from the title there, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the move at all. I think this is such a deflating, lazy, can't really say lazy because I think we all know what the reason is, but such a deflating, underwhelming pick. After all this, after all the excitement that people raved about, they were excited for the head coaching search. You see all these names that come around with Grant from Jacksonville. You look at Davis Webb potentially. Brian Dable may return for Josh Allen and that high flying offense they had in that passing attack. You look at Kubiak from the Seahawks. If they wanted to wait 2 weeks to interview him, and there was a lot of people down the line of who they were looking at, and you got excited. And of course, you had Joe Brady in the beginning. He was the first interview that they had, and as the days went on, suddenly you get a little antsy. You get a little more excited because you look at the other coaching hires where it's all those offensive guys aren't being taken off the field, really, for the Bills. And it seemed like at this point now, before we got the news around I think noonish or so, maybe before there, that the Bills were by far the best place to land because you had the Bills, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Cardinals. Haven't really heard too much from the Cardinals, nor have I really heard them talk to a lot of people. At least I think today, yesterday, put out that they're talking to Robert Rivera for the head coaching spot there. The Raiders, they did talk about to Joe Brady twice, along with a couple other people too. The Browns have been dysfunctional because no one wants to interview with them, so it might be by default Jim Schwartz is the head coach. So it looked like everything was obvious that the Bills were the prime spot with Josh Allen. How do you feel about the roster? Josh Allen, James Cook, still a good offensive line, some promising pieces on the defense. Certainly, at worst case, a playoff caliber team. If you want to, knock them down and not being Super Bowl caliber anymore, certainly a top playoff team in the AFC and NFL in general. And after all that excitement, after all that it looked at the betting odds, everything was going to go to Grant from Jacksonville. It was, you've got the big news for me at work and probably for all of us where we were at. I look at my phone and I see Joe Brady's face, and I immediately got crushed. And I see the title: the Bills promoted Joe Brady, or the Bills hired Joe Brady as a head coach. And again, it's just, to me, this signals more about Brandon Beane than it does about Joe Brady. To me, this move just feels like a yes man, and someone who's going to agree with Brandon Beane, as opposed to someone who's going to truly elevate the Bills into what they're looking for. And you could say the same thing for the rest of what I'm about to say. With Joe Brady being inexperienced, being now a first-time head coach, he's also doing play calling duties on top of being a head coach. Is that a lot for him? Now, you could say that for every other young candidate they were going to hire. Let's say if we hired Davis Webb, you could say the same thing about Davis Webb, right? Like I said, the list goes on and on. But you feel more excited because it's not just about that. It's about actual true change, that you actually went outside the organization and you pick somebody to be a fresh voice, a fresh face in a new era. And this doesn't feel like a new era. Even with, yes, you have a new head coach, it's an offensive coordinator, and Joe Brady. It doesn't feel different at all. Again, if you go back to the press conference of what Pegula stated, going back to the two major points that he had issue with, he said the coaching staff pushed for Keon Coleman, not Brandon Beane. I don't know if Pegula realized this. I mean, it's tough when you lie because you got to keep the story straight. You got to remember what you said. So for Pegula, I don't know if he realized this, but he basically threw Joe Brady under the bus. On top of that, because if we have to group everyone together, and certainly Joe Brady being the offensive coordinator, I'm sure he had a lot of say in what he wanted. So you hired a guy who you blame the Keon Coleman pick for, and part of, as well as a coach that was part of the group, the head coach that couldn't get over the top and hit this perennial playoff wall that you felt after the Broncos loss. He was a part of that. The offense was an issue throughout the year, as well as the defense at time. Defense was defense, that we all know. But the offense, more so in a lot of the losses, failed to deliver and struggled. And the Broncos game was that, where they had the ball in overtime, and even before that, late in the game, in regulation, to win the game, and did not do that. I know people are going to bring up a lot of the Brandon Cook catch, interception, how you want to view it as. The Bills still had the opportunity twice to seal the game away before it even got to overtime and when they had the ball in overtime. The defense did its job. It stopped the Broncos offense on the first possession and gave it to the Bills. And you could go back to even last year with the AFC Championship loss to the Chiefs. If you want to put on Dalton Kincaid again, you have to find a way to win. The year before that, if you want to put that on the divisional round loss to the Chiefs, again, you talk about Tyler Bass, but there were still other losses there too. Yes, Diggs dropped a big catch there as well. But again, it comes down to the offenses late in the games had the opportunity to win and failed to deliver. Is there blame on Sean McDermott and the defense? Absolutely there is. But to put it all on McDermott when there's other issues, it is a big problem. And again, you didn't really change anything. You just promoted within the same staff that said that they couldn't get it done, that you threw under the bus for the Keon Coleman pick. And this is what a lot of people are pointing out. Even on First Things First, I don't want to say I really agree with Nick Wright, but he pointed it out. The 2 points that I just said about the Keon Coleman and hanging a wall is what he brought out and what a lot of people have discussed. It makes no sense. It contradicts what you said in the press conference. And again, it's tough for Pegula because he doesn't talk too much, but it's tough when you lie because you gotta remember what you said if you want to make the story up. And Brandon Beane picked Joe Brady because he's a yes man, I fear, and that he's someone that's not going to challenge what he believes and what he wants. And that's why that two things can be true. Maybe the searching process was authentic and genuine, but they probably didn't like what they heard. Maybe people kind of challenge Brandon Beane a little bit, and we can't have that. People can't question Brandon Beane and what he does. I mean, look at WGR last year. You can't talk about wide receiver. He might lash out at you, talking about you guys are a bunch of idiots for talking about wide receiver. We don't need that. Look what we did last year, and look at the wide receiving group this year. Absolutely horrible outside of Khalil Shakir. So again, this is a guy who doesn't like to be challenged, who doesn't like to be told differently in how he drafts and what he does. And maybe this is what it came down to. Joe Brady wasn't going to challenge Brandon Beane or throw his weight around like other coaches that maybe wanted to have more input on the team. And that's why I fear in this Joe Brady hire is more. It reflects more about Brandon Beane than it is about Joe Brady. And it's the frustrating part is when you have the team in a rare spot that the Bills are in, where they have a great team, like I said. One of the very few times, or if not the only time in Bills history, where they've had this opportunity or be in this predicament, if you want to call it as, and to mess up the move like this, to be such a deflating hire and such an underwhelming one, it's heartbreaking. Is this the worst hire they could do? No, I think there's other candidates out there that would have been worse than Brady, but it ruins the whole point. It wastes the whole point of going through this whole process because you might as well have just came out and said in the press conference that Joe Brady's the head coach. If it was at that, that's what it feels like. You got everyone's hopes up. We have everyone talking about all these different candidates. Again, if you want to wait for Kubiak, Davis Webb, if you want to talk to the Rams coaching staff too, we have all this wait to do this. and to come back full circle and just be like, yeah, we're just going to promote within. It's a cop out. It feels like, again, it feels. I think it's to me. I think if it speaks more about Brandon Beane than it does about Joe Brady being an actual head coach. And we could be wrong. I could be wrong in how I feel about it. Maybe Joe Brady is the different character, different personality the Bills need to get over the hump and be better. A big thing too is going to be the defense. We don't know the defensive coordinator yet. I think it's a Leonard potentially for the Broncos, a passing game coordinator, as well as the assistant head coach for the Broncos. It's nothing official yet. Is expected, but again, we will wait and see until it's official. As right now, it's Bobby Babich. And if Bobby Babich is still here and obviously he goes elsewhere and Babich is still at DC, you're going to lose a lot of fans fast. And you probably lost already a lot of fans as it is with the Joe Brady hire. You're going to lose a lot more people because it's going to look more like we just didn't like McDermott because he lashed out, as opposed to we felt like we hit a wall because you're keeping everything else in place except for the head coach. And of course, there's other coaches on the team, the offensive line coach and so forth, that have left because they're retired or went elsewhere. So there is some positions that need to be filled. But for the bulk, the big portion of it, it doesn't feel like a big change. It just feels like you got rid of McDermott because he lashed out and he didn't agree with what was going on. He didn't agree with the roster. He didn't agree how the direction was going. And the tough thing, too, is now there's no one you can throw under the bus. And if you do, it all comes back to Brandon Beane and Pegula. Because if you're blaming Joe Brady now, if it fails, who hired Joe Brady? Brandon Beane. You can't blame McDermott. He's not here anymore. So everything is going to come full circle, and it's all going to fall back on Brandon Beane if it fails. Sorry, Pegula, you can't throw anyone else under the bus. You can't step in and save your boy next time when it fails. It all comes back on him because he's the one that made the choices. He's the one that made the decisions. It all falls on him. And Pegula's going to look even more of a clown if it doesn't work out too, because now he can't defend his boy on the side and have to save him from a question because he can't handle that question. So we'll see. And I think in part two, what are you believing to the degree about Josh Allen having say in the quarterback or in the head coaching spot, the hire? Again, what if it was very big or little? He did come out and say, if you want to take it truthful for Pegula, that Josh Allen had say. And if he signed off on this, shame on Josh Allen. Because I feel like he picked more of a friend and a buddy as opposed to someone who's going to push him. Did we ever view Joe Brady as someone who's going to push Josh Allen? No. I don't think we ever viewed that as that. Maybe, again, we could see the coaching staff and what the quarterback's coach is going to be. If they change it up, maybe if they bring up Philip Rivers. That, okay, it's enticing because great knowledge for Philip Rivers, high football IQ. He can really help out Josh Allen or some along the lines of that nature or what they're going to do. But Joe Brady initially does not look like a guy who's going to push Josh Allen and challenge him. This is also an offense that, again, we complained about that was very bland, was very simple, predictable, screen passes, short passes, not using the explosive plays. And now you promote that even more when that was a big issue. But Brandon Beane had no issue because just look at the stat sheet. Don't look at on the field. Don't look at actually what matters. Just look at he's like Andrew Barry. Just look at the statistics. Look at the data. Look at the piece of paper. What are we ranked? That's all that matters. Instead of actually using your eyes and looking at what's going on the field there, where, yes, they are scoring, but a lot of it is coming late in games because Josh Allen has to do a lot because there's no talent around him. Because there's no great scheming up for the players because the players suck. On top of that, too, there's a lot of things that go hand in hand with this. It's all around with the offensive side. And it's the biggest thing why people are upset with. I think another part is why people are upset with Joe Brady being hired because they want a different offense. They want a more explosive offense that's going to cater to Josh Allen. And you stuck with the system that got exposed this year because of both the lack of talent as well as just the lack of being creative on that side and being predictable. Would we constantly complain about screen passes all year? That's going to be ramped up even more. And I think another interesting point, too, is going to be who's the OC. Yeah, it's not anything official yet for the DC yet. We're just expecting him to be hired. But for the OC, who's Joe Brady going to pick? So, again, I think all around, I wouldn't say, you could certainly say horrible, and based on my article that I just showed you really quick, if you want to go on there and read it quickly, not the longest article, just my quick thoughts and basically similar to what I'm saying in this video. It's just it's deflating. I think it is. It's just it made the whole thing pointless. You got everyone's hopes up for nothing, and for their sake, hopefully that they get it right. Hopefully, if Brandon Beane, he turns it around and he knocks it out of the park with draft picks, and that I guess for the story they try to spin to us is that McDermott had a lot of say in the picks, not just Keon Coleman, but other picks maybe, and that's what made some recent draft picks or draft years horrible. And maybe Brandon Beane turns it around. Maybe he got knocks out of the park for this year's draft. Maybe he signs some good players, makes some good moves, and we'll see what happens after that. Maybe he gets a true, legitimate number one wide receiver for Josh Allen. Only time will tell, and we'll see how the defense plays out too. However, that defensive coordinator is going to be opening day for that. So again, there is a lot of things that they need to make up. There's a lot of grounds they have to get back. Can they win the fan base back? Absolutely, they can. What is it going to take? Being better, winning, and more importantly, getting over that hump of the heartbreaking losses and winning a Super Bowl, or at the very least, if we want to say get to a Super Bowl, but more importantly, win. I think we've been to the Super Bowl plenty of times. I think it's time to win one now. But again, there is a lot of work that can be done. Is it too much to do in one off season? I'm not sure. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But so far we are not confident in Brandon Beane, who I think a lot of us, including myself, want it gone. A lot of us are not, including myself, not confident in Joe Brady of what he can do. And again, I blame everyone a part of this. Brandon Beane, Josh Allen, Pagula, everything. And I think I'm more upset with Josh Allen if he signed off on this because he should know better. And again, I think he picked a buddy as opposed to someone who's going to push him. So next time if Josh Allen wants to cry on the post games and be upset that things aren't working out, I don't feel bad as much I don't feel as bad for you anymore because you had say. And I think maybe you could throw your power on. I mean, you're not the type of guy to do that, but if you really want to win, what matters more? Is it about being buddies with everybody, or is it about winning? At the end of the day, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a competitive business. It's a sport. We're here to win. Would you want to be friends with everyone, be kind? Yes, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we are here to win. And if Josh Allen picked Brady because he's a good friend as opposed to someone who's going to elevate this team and himself, shame on Josh Allen for siding with this pick here. If he did truly actually have say in the matter for the next head coach, shame on Josh Allen because he could have done something differently. He could have made things a little bit ugly and push for someone else. And maybe it could be true where he feels like Joe Brady is the right guy. But regardless, it's just not going to be a good look, I think, either way for anyone involved in this head coaching process. And again, for our sakes, hopefully that we are wrong. Hopefully this is the right guy. But you were going to need a lot of convincing to feel like this is the true, legitimate, real head coach that we needed. A lot of changes need to be done on the defense and the team in general. There should be a lot of turnaround on this roster. I think certainly players that need to go and players that should never come back. If you want to see the old retreads that we've seen from years past, they need to be gone. They need to do better in the draft. They need to do better in free agency. They need to get this team actual talented players. And we will see how they perform on opening day, whenever that's scheduled for the 2026 season. And to make matters worse, we're going also into a brand new stadium. This is not Highmark anymore. We are leaving that era behind, and we are in a new era with the new stadium that will be opening up for sometime in August for the preseason game, but certainly, especially for the regular season opening day, whatever that is, if it's a night game, day game, however it plays out, primetime game, that they better be ready. Joe Brady better be ready. This coaching staff, this team better be ready to perform and hit the ground running. Because if there's any stifle in that, if they take a little bit long to get going, there's going to be major problems. And there's going to be major outrage, especially if they lose a game or two early on that they shouldn't. There is going to be major outrage. And there's going to be a lot of pushback and a lot of this, certainly negative things happening from the fan base. That's the biggest issue it is, and especially for if you look at this for the fans in the stadium, what the whole seat licenses and paying the tickets are probably more expensive now with going to the new stadium. Should say probably they are. Yes, money talks, and if they don't perform, fans aren't going to come back. Fans aren't going to renew their season tickets. So again, there's a lot of stake that's going on with this move here, and I hope that they consider that. And again, it's not just a Brandon Beane move where he just wants the power and he wants no one to question him. I hope you got it right this time. I hope you generally think that this is you had good intentions in this hiring, and you truly believe that that Brandon Beane can do it, because there's a lot writing on this. If we go 2-3 years down the line and we don't do anything, you wasted more of Josh Allen's prime. I mean, at that point, we're probably at the end of Josh Allen's prime. So again, there's a lot riding on this move here. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not excited. It's all like all of us. It's just you got You gotta buy me back into this. You gotta. I'm a sucker. I'll buy in quickly, but you gotta show me what you're gonna do. What are you gonna do to prove the team? And it's more just a wait and see at this point, as opposed to if it was another head coach, another young offensive minded coach, I would be more excited with that because is the floor lower potentially? Yes, but the ceiling is unlimited. It feels like, or limitless, because you just don't know what the unknown. With Joe Brady, you know what you're getting, and unfortunately, this year was a lot of dislike for Brady. So not a good look promoting Joe Brady. We'll see how it plays out. Once again, the Bills promote offensive coordinator Joe Brady to be the next Bills head coach. We'll see how it plays out there. I presume maybe today or tomorrow, whatever it's going to be for the press conference when they'll talk. We'll wait and see what the organization says and what Joe Brady says of what his vision is moving forward.